Hey, my name's Alpha Omega. I'm a Octo Expansion speedrunner, though you probably already know that by the time you're watching this. But I decided I forgot to record anything good for this week, so figured might as well do a tutorial walkthrough explanation of a very beginner-friendly way of playing the escape sequence here in Octo Expansion. There are going to be a couple more advanced strats throughout the run, or throughout the sequence, I should say. But a lot of it's going to be relatively beginner and intermediate friendly, with the exception of Escape 6, mostly because there is one strategy that will almost always work there, and I will go into depth on how that works when I get there. I will also go ahead and have the uh, individual phases bookmarked down in the timeline below on the scroll bar, whatever you want to call it. That way, if you need to go find a different specific phase to practice, then it's all right there for you. So, let's get into it. So I am going to be skipping the first cutscene here, and that's just for ease, because who wants to watch another, 5-minute cutscene? It's not that enjoyable in the grand scheme of things. I guess it's like 2.5 minutes, but my point stands. The other thing you'll notice is that I'm not skipping the cutscenes, because in Escape RTA that is not allowed, and also because this is for full run stuff. So a lot of the movement at the beginning here is pretty simple, mashing B to climb up the wall faster. Here, don't really have to worry about, these guys spotting you as long as you're only swimming when the platforms are stopped. Though I will say, this jump here, it is a little bit sort of like, does it really save time? We're not really sure. I know I do it. I know a few other runners do it. Just, if you want to play it safe and just wait till the platform's already there, you're probably going to be losing practically no time at all. But on this second checkpoint, especially if you are beginning off, it's very tempting to go slow through here. You can just swim straight through. And the enemies are very unlikely to kill you. But what I will say is that on occasion, these enemies on the left here can sort of like paint over where you're swimming. And when that happens, you're going to want to go out of squid form and go and start jumping through. Reason why is that jumping is going to conserve more of your momentum because you're not stuck in the ink as much, and it's just going to be a little bit easier in the long run to get through there. So you can see there, I have relatively no issues. Here, you might get a little bit unlucky with these enemies. They can break your armor and they can kill you, but grand scheme of things, that's not insanely likely. Maybe about 1 in every, 50 runs or so is from my experience what you're going to get. This checkpoint, though, you cannot rush. So you'll notice that I am waiting in kid form here. And you absolutely do not want to jump to that waiting platform from, here. Because if you jump beyond this little ink puddle right here, this one, these enemies down here are going to notice you, and it's going to be bad. But other than that, you're practically fine. And then you're just waiting for them to turn around, and once they turn around, you're good to go. And it's the same as here. This checkpoint, so a lot of what we're doing is we're trying to aim for right around this area here, because depending on what sort of ink precautions you have, you're going to be, or precautions, what am I saying? Depending on the amount of ink that is covering that area, you can either get to this platform in 1 or 2 jumps. It's relatively consistent, and the Octo Commander that spawns off to the left here is never going to hit you. You have far too much speed to, not to get hit, because they still have to charge up their shots, and only then will it start rapid firing at you. And you can see that here. This checkpoint here, you need to be very careful You can see me going through here and then stopping on this second puddle. You absolutely, under no circumstances, can go beyond this puddle here. Because if you do, this Octo Sniper is going to spot you, and then you're going to have not Octo Bombers, but Octo... the little missile guys that will run at you and blow up. Can't remember their actual name right now. But they'll spawn in on each of these platforms, and if that happens, you're as good as dead. And that is not a joke. I've had it happen to me before. It is a bad situation. But you're waiting for these walls to start closing and probably get about halfway closed before you start swimming again. And at that point, you can just swim through, and even if you're noticed by the Octo Sniper, he's not going to kill you. This checkpoint here, super simple. Just jump through. Even when they spot you, they don't have enough time to kill you. If you're in squid form, octo form, whatever you want to call it. But this checkpoint here, the one with the ink rail, this is a global cycle. If you don't know what a global cycle is, basically from the time you enter Escape 1, these two platforms right here, they are always going to be doing this pattern of spinning, raising, lowering, spinning again. It is always going to be happening in the background. And it's the only one in the entire phase that's like this. All of the other ones are local cycles, which means they only start once you approach them. So you're really trying to get to a position where... hold on. When you're getting to this checkpoint here, you want this panel here to still be in this orientation with the enemy ink up top and your ink below. That's the orientation you want to be in when you reach this checkpoint. Because when we do that, you'll notice that it's now rotating to the point where we can do a fun little jump. So you'll see me waiting for it here, and that's just because the enemy ink is still, like, on this side. Because we're going to be jumping to, like, this area right here. So obviously we want to jump right into our own ink. And what I would recommend is, like, trying to line yourself up with, like, along this line. And this is sort of the line you want to jump on. Because if you jump from there, you're going to land... you can't see it here, but the edge of the platform you're trying to hit is right here. Where I've circled in blue. And it does require a full jump, so once you press the B button, just hold on to it until, you get there. Because if you do it otherwise, it's going to be bad. And then you're going to fall down onto this platform, and then you die. And then all of a sudden, you're losing like 15, 20 seconds. So you'll see what I do here is I just wait until I know that platform is going to be good, jump in, and then I can swim right through not being noticed. This section here, I know it's very much short. The game basically tries to tell you that, like, oh, just drop down and wait for the platform to spin around. But you can just straight up, like, swim straight through. And then you might get your armor broken here, but you're going right onto a checkpoint. So you can just full-on send it, and it's not going to be an issue. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you're not on a fast enough cycle, and this one is local, this platform that I'm currently standing on, it's going to start to rotate, and obviously that rotation is going to carry your momentum, so you do almost want to aim a little bit to the left, as you can see me kind of do here. Like, when I do this jump, I'm already on, like, the left side of the platform here. Like, I'm going to be landing, you can see, there. And then the momentum carries me straight through to the boost pad. This one, easiest way to do it is just to wait for this guy here to go beyond this wall. There's not much else to it. You can get away with doing it a little bit earlier, but not really recommended. It's a little risky. Just jump up to that boost panel however you feel comfortable. And then this one, this checkpoint. Again, if this enemy here spots you, it's bad news. So, like, don't get caught. And the best way to not get caught is to basically just stay behind this yellow line here until he turns the corner. And once he's turned the corner, rotated 90 degrees, you can then just jump onto this boost panel, climb up the wall, no issue. And you'll see me do that here. Wait, he's turned, jump onto the panels, no issue. And then here, I'm waiting for roughly this octocopter here to like move just a little bit more to the right. And then you'll see me swim form on squid form to draw attention to myself. And that is to draw this octocopter to shoot at me earlier rather than onto the wall. And you can see that there. I get a little bit unlucky here with my ink patterns, but it's not the end of the world. So that's escape 1. Super fast in the grand scheme of things, maybe like 2 minutes or so. Up next is escape 2. And I will not be going over Octoshot skipping this. It is far too random in the grand scheme of things, and it's just going to end poorly. The first thing to do is to get the Octo Seeker's attention, and the most consistent way that I have found to do that is to basically go to the left side of this line that you see me drawing on, and make sure that your camera is pointed up to the Octo Seeker. If you do that, then he's almost always going to aggro onto you, and that's what we want. And there you go. The next step is going to be having him break the boxes. You see me stand between the second leftmost, and then I think this is the middle one, or like maybe the... No, I think it is the middle one. And that's to get him to break this set of 4 boxes that you see my arrows on. And then I think I'm going to run to the left here to try and get by. So you'll see that in a moment. So once he starts once he's about to do his attack, once his red lights flash, you run to the left. He's going to break. On occasion, you can get it to where this little area here is going to be open for you to travel through. Which is why you see me go into squid form, because these little propellers here on the side... Actually, I'll just go ahead and... yeah. These little thingies right here, you can swim through. So, it's just one of those, oh yeah, you have a nice little area to swim through. No, delete. Thank you. And then it's grabbing the key and just running back to the first lockbox. So there's 2 ways to do this checkpoint. The way I'm going to do it is going to involve corner jumps, which is relatively self-explanatory. On a good number of these corners that we're going to be traveling, so for example, like this one here, let me get a better color. This one here, this one down here, and then this jump here, we're going to be taking essentially shortcuts. So small jumps like from here to here, here to here, and then from this jump point here to this little orb right here. I'm not sure how well you can see it. But we're going to be making those jumps along with a few others, and that's going to allow us to save probably around like a second or so. So there's that jump, this jump, and then the big jump here. A lot of the times, you want these jumps to be just really quick B presses, rather than like big, long jumps, because these short B presses keep more of your forward momentum. And it's going to be the same amount of forward momentum that you have swimming in the rails. So you can see another one of these short ones here, one here, and then one more up here. And then for this enemy here, this one here, if you've played Octo Expansion before, you know that you need to get him to break one of these 3 boxes behind him. And the fastest way to do that is going to be a full hold jump here, so a long jump. A quick squid on squid to get his attention, and then run to the left and into the center box. You could honestly pick any of the boxes. I just like the center one. It's easier, it's more consistent. The most important thing to do, though, is to make sure that you keep this enemy in your field of view, because if he goes out, his shots become a lot less accurate. It's just a quirk of Splatoon. All enemies will act different if they are no longer in your field of view. Simple jump here. And then once you throw this, I would recommend holding out your sub-weapon, even though you don't have the ink for it, to automatically do a sub-strafe, which is going to bring you up to top speed immediately. Another thing here is I recommend standing on this geyser, because if you stand on the geyser, then you're going to be able to get a swim in this checkpoint here that my mouse is on. If you just swim through the geyser, you're not going to be able to get a swim here, so you're going to lose a little bit of momentum. Early bomb throw onto this panel, and then using this boost, or using this switch to get up enough ink to throw a bomb. Same technique with a sub-strafe here. This checkpoint is a little bit more intensive, or these two checkpoints, I should say. So a lot of what we're trying to do is create good patterns for us to go off of. So this first bomb, yes, we still want to obviously activate the fan, but we want to paint this corner here. So you'll notice that I roll my bomb to basically right on this fence. And that does the two things we're looking for it to do. It's going to activate the fan with enough distance to get us to this second platform, and paint enough of this corner that allows us to do this jump. And that's just another small time save. Obviously, you can take less of the jump. I just have it built into my muscle memory to do that long of a jump. And I'm going to do the same thing on this set of platforms. I want to paint this corner to give myself a jump to the other platform, while activating the bomb at the same time, and then jumping a little bit early just to get ahead of the Rollonium. Here, you're going to want to, I think, press and hold R throughout this super jump. I think, yeah. If you press and hold R throughout the super jump, your character will throw a bomb once you lose control, which then means that it will explode through this cutscene. I forgot to do that here, because I was spamming the R button. That's on me. But that would otherwise cause this platform to raise earlier, or raise through the cutscene, allowing you an easier time. But at the end of the day, it's not too big of a deal if it happens the second time around. And then just simple painting through the rest of the phase. The best way to not get your attention caught here is to actually just do 2 tap shots. Because if you do extended fire, he's going to notice you more. Or the Aqua Seeker, I should specify. And then here, yeah, just swim to the right. I would recommend for beginners or intermediate players, don't do the jump that I'm about to do, which is like to this side here. Just go to this little orb here and just swim the rest. If you happen to get caught and swim even a little bit to the left here, you're going to lose all of your forward momentum and die. I've done it several times. It always hurts. So be safe. Go for this one. Go for that jump. Don't do what I'm about to do, which is this. And then just use your shot to kill the Aqua Sniper. So coming up on Phase 3, I know I mentioned it earlier in Phase 1, but this entire phase is dictated on global cycles. So from the time you spawn in here, you are on a clock. And that includes this cutscene here. Like, you can even see it here that these platforms here are moving this way. They're moving towards the goal. So our goal here is to hit a cycle known as 208. And that's because on a good time, it will take you 2 minutes, 8 seconds to finish the cycle, or to finish the phase. So you're going to be seeing me do a route of this cycle. I would highly recommend this one for beginners, even up to higher end intermediate players, to the point that we're talking like 109s, 108s, or if we're talking in terms of escape RTA, you can see here like high 15s, even into the mid to low 15s. The faster route, 159, is significantly harder, and as I'm sure you can tell by the name, it only saves maximum around 9 seconds. So in the grand scheme of things, this is going to be far more consistent for far less risk, which, if you're still starting off, is absolutely the way that you want to take things. The other thing to know about Escape 3 is that a lot of it does require fast movement, and if anything else, like precise movement. So, or maybe not precise, but like dedicated movement. Like, you have to know what you're doing. So even if it means like practicing a significant amount, this is still so consistent that you're not going to have any issues. The other thing to keep in mind is, especially on this checkpoint, what your washer cycles are on. So yeah, you can see the last set up here as well. So by most standards, you're just going to want to try to avoid them at all costs, especially the ones, not that one, not that thing. You're going to want to try to avoid these at all costs, because these jumps are a lot further than they look, and it is very, very easy to hit one of these washers, and if you hit a washer, you're dead. So you need to be avoiding that one. You can use this balloon fish to paint a little bit of the ground for you. And as you can see here, I'm going to the left side here just to make sure that I have a clear path. You could also do the right side. And this one here, you're going to notice that I pause at the top here to let these washers go by. You can go up through them and take an armor break. But at the end of the day, just taking it slow is not going to lose you that much time. Because if you armor break, you're still going to have to wait for this one to go by anyways. This checkpoint here, the third checkpoint, a lot of it is based off of what sort of timing you're on for the cycle. So, by this point, if I'm seeing this platform here, like in this position, I know that I'm basically on a good enough pace to where I'm not worried, and that I can take a little bit of extra time to route myself, or to give myself a better route once I grab the key for this checkpoint. So it's going to go this platform to this platform to this platform to this one to this one, and then you just swim down to the key here. And that's going to be the first phase of this checkpoint. So you'll see me do that here. And as long as you have this block here painted well enough, you're not going to have an issue climbing to it, because it's also facing down. And because I know that I have time here, I'm using this extra time to paint this block, because once we grab the key, we're going this block, this block, this block, and there's one just off of screen here. And that's going to be your pattern once you grab the key. So once you grab the key here, it is extremely important. If these guys are in your way, I would highly recommend killing them. They will ruin your run a surprising amount of time if you leave them be. But it is very important that you get onto this platform as soon as you comfortably can. I'm not saying that you should risk it and try to get it frame 1, but make sure that your paint is all the way down to the edge of the platform. I've seen runs lost to it not being all the way down. And then jump on whenever is best for you. And you can see here, since I've already painted this, I'm good to go. And then there's the jump down. the paint here, and then, oh well, what? I just throw a bomb here to get the ground painted, and then into the launch pad. A very big thing to notice, and you see it a lot within this escape, or specifically within Escape 3, Phase 3 of Escape, whatever you want to call it, is that you are going to be doing a lot of midair shooting, which means that you need to get a lot of like speed off the top, or off of your jumps. And again, that's just a comfort thing. That's knowing what sort of speed you have and knowing, basically having familiarity with the game. So as we go into the last checkpoint here, you're going to want to at least fire a little bit to try and create yourself a path. I know some players will use a bomb here to paint this exact path, but I prefer just using a, whatchamacallit, just using my Octoshot here. From here, we're going to be looking to jump onto, from this ledge, you want to do a full jump right down. Actually, I can back up a little bit to show it better, because you'll see it earlier. You can see the intersection of these two blocks right here. You're basically trying to land in this spot right here, and you'll see me do that here, a little bit further up. And then, yeah, we're going to be jumping this block to the here. And then you have two methods from this block to the next one. You could do basically a diagonal jump, or you could climb up onto this block and over. Both work just as well. This one, or the left one's a little bit faster, the diagonal, but obviously a little bit riskier if you're not on quite as good of a pattern. But you can see I have plenty of time, so I can do that jump. Be sure that you have all the way to the edge here inked, as well as all the way on this side inked. Because you're going to be doing a full length jump here, and you want to make sure that you have the space and the ink to catch yourself if you happen to jump a little bit early or you don't get a full length jump. If you time it perfectly, you will end up getting all the way onto the top, but you never want to bank on that. If you bank on that too much, you're going to lose runs. And then just a simple here. Once you hit these boost panels, you want to throw a bomb, because that will essentially stun lock the octocopter. Octomiss? Whatever this guy is called. I don't remember. That's basically going to stun lock him in place, and you can get an easier kill. And that's 208 cycle. As I said, I would go into depth on 159, but that is so advanced for so little time that it's just not worth it. Escape 4 is our shortest phase of the entire escape sequence. Done optimally, it's only around like 65 seconds, or a minute 4 seconds, minute 5 seconds. But if you're doing a safer route, it's still probably only around like a minute 10 seconds, a minute 15 seconds. And you're going to be seeing me do that here. You want to, I mean, that thing at the very beginning is easy. Activating the cutscene is nothing big. You'll see me using bombs here to try and ink my path ahead of me. So as I jump here, you'll notice I throw a bomb. When a bomb hits a laser, it will automatically explode with your ink, so it's very good at creating paths further down. The other big thing to keep in mind on Escape 4 is this checkpoint here, because this is another global cycle. It's a lot more forgiving than some of the other ones, but a lot of it is knowing that, like, okay, by the time I get there, these ones should be closing, so I can paint to the outside of them. And if you really need to, you can, like, pause slightly. And you'll see me do that here. Like, with this one, I can't confidently get my way through this last pair of lasers. So I just wait until I know I'm in a good spot, and then I jump through. And that's a lot of what this phase comes down to, because, you know, a death here is probably losing you 15 seconds. Especially on that checkpoint. because the death cycle is long. And then there's getting back to it, etc., etc. So obviously you don't want to be taking risks, especially if you're on like a PB pace, after, 45 minutes of playing the Metro sequence. Here, this is the moving lasers, or the ones that are moving towards you. The first two pairs, you can just basically activate at the same time. So you'll see me go slightly off to the left here to paint this switch. And the reason I go to the left rather than the right is because our next checkpoint is on the left side of the hallway, essentially. So, jump through here, and then with this specific switch here, basically what you're going to see us doing is, well, obviously the game wants you to paint up this entire wall here, and then just kind of hover. But what we're able to do is we paint here, and then you see us actually use the ceiling to bonk our heads. Obviously, I would recommend playing it a little bit safer. The bonk is obviously meant for super fast, so if you painted in like this general vicinity here and then just swam over, you're going to be fine. It's just that the bonk saves like a couple of tenths. And then the last checkpoint, there are two main ways of doing it. There's the strategy that I'm going to be showing here, which is the safe route, and then there's been a recent-ish trick discovered called, or it's been known for a while, but there's a new method for it called NILS, new and improved laser skip, where after we activate this panel here, we're able to jump through the lasers to the right. But again, if you're just starting off, would not recommend it, because you're risking losing 10 seconds to save like 2. Obviously, if you're experienced with it, absolutely get it. You can jump through this gap here, but again, wouldn't recommend it for beginners. So you're going to see me paint up and over here. And that's obviously what I recommend for beginning. And then just a bunch of small individual squid form jumps, octoform jumps to get to the end. A lot of runners will just break the center set of boxes here at the ending, because that is the easiest. All of them have a reinforced box, so there's not one way that is faster to go through. So now that we're going into Escape 5, we have yet another example of global cycles. And the entire breakdown of this phase is heavily reliant on those global cycles. So you're not going to be wanting to waste any time, because any time wasted is a higher chance of losing time. So early inkjet grab. You don't have to go onto all these platforms. You can kind of skip a little bit. And you can get super close to the data points before you shoot. Here, I break this one early because you can jump up onto this platform, grab the point, and then in the short amount of time between grabbing the point and then the next cutscene starting, you're going to want to shoot a inkjet shot somewhere in this vicinity here on the far wall, because we're going to need to climb up it. So you see me do it here, and then, okay, I know, okay, I shot high, I need to paint low. This jump here, we're trying to get to this platform here. So what you're going to want to do is while you're still on this grate, you want to do a B press to jump. And then basically midair, another B press to get more height. And that is because since we are technically on the ground here, we can do a normal jump like any other one that you would do if you didn't have inkjet. Whereas once we're in the air, we get the boost from the inkjet. So you will see that here. So regular jump and then the boost. I can actually turn off there we go. And then we're going to be jumping to this right panel here, or this right ink line. I think they're called ink lines. And then there are two ways of doing this. You can jump from this point directly to here with a shot to collect it, but risky and doesn't save that much time for regular cycle. Or you can do this method. And once you've collected this, what you want to be doing, once you've collected this point, especially if you grab it from the top, once you have you want to, okay, let me see if I can draw a Pro Controller. I don't think I can, but I'm going to try. You know, that's not bad. So you have your control sticks, you have your D-pad, your 4 buttons, and your right stick. You want to be holding down on your left stick, basically to move backwards, and then mashing the ever-loving crap out of your B button. And what that's going to allow us to do is, as soon as this cutscene ends, we're going to jump up with our boost and move backwards. So that in the off chance that we're too low, we're going to get back up onto this platform. You're going to want to do a quick turnaround. And this is when it really pays to have, at least in my opinion, high right stick sensitivity, because this is a super short move with just the right stick. If you're overly reliant on motion for your overall camera movement, this is going to be really awkward, because you're basically going to be turning your wrists like 90 degrees. But once you do that, your next shot is going to be up onto this panel here to basically move this out. And then you also want to use another boost from the pack to get you up onto this platform here. And then you just kind of want to be stationary on this platform, even as you're hovering. Because once we get up, you're going to want to do 4 individual shots. Basically, one here, one here, one here, one here, to create a path for us to climb. Obviously, you do have to be mindful of these enemies here, because they are going to be shooting at you. But that's sort of just keep it in mind, keep their shots in your peripheral vision. So you can see I kind of moved to the right there just to avoid. And then climb up. And we're going to be grabbing our next data point, which is going to be obviously this one here. And then you'll see me go into octopus form here. And that's because you will fall faster in octopus form rather than if you're in your inkjet, which means I can get down faster. So once I've broken this, I go back into squid form to collect the checkpoint earlier. Once you've done that, you want to do a quick 180 with your camera and your movement. The way I do that is just by holding both my left stick and my right stick at 90 degrees. And that gets me a relatively consistent turnaround. Boost up to paint yourself out. And then start heading towards like the sort of like lock style data point, which is obviously this one here. And then I highly recommend going to the left side here. Actually, let me get a better color for my thing. To the left side here, because we're going to be using the exhaust from our inkjet to paint the wall behind us. And you'll see that. Because we need to climb back up the side of basically climb up the side of the vault to get to our next data point after this one. So you can see there, since I hovered right over here, I was able to paint while also getting a shot off onto this switch. And then from here, you want to boost to keep yourself up in the air, shoot, and then immediately go into octopus form. As long as you shoot below yourself or parallel with yourself along the wall, you're going to catch into your own ink and be able to just gently hold up on your left stick to sort of hover in your own ink. And then it's just a simple shot with your inkjet to grab the data point. Now, the main visual cue that you want to be using for what your next play should be is the laser that is extending off of this data point. So as you can see right now, if you want to think of this as a clock with like 12, 3, 6, and 9, you want this laser to be roughly in the realm of like 3 o'clock to probably about 5 o'clock. You can get away with like 6, but it's super precise. So yeah, you want it to be in like the range of pointing out this way or like this way throughout the cutscene. Because from there, like once you've recognized what your pattern is, yeah, you can see it then rotates just to about 5 o'clock. You're going to climb back up the path we made, which is why I said, okay, you want to be going to the left side, because now we're on the right side, and hey, would you look at that, we're closer to the next data point we need to grab. And then however you want to get over to this side. And you'll notice that this lines up perfectly for us to grab this data point. I will say, with this, if the laser gets to the point where it's basically pointing out 90 degrees this way, it is far safer to just wait on it, to do another full half cycle around. Because if you catch it when it's like pointing downwards, you're going to spawn down here and you're in trouble. I mean, not like you're going to die trouble, but, you know, you really need to know your backups in that case. But in this example, obviously, I'm fine. And then it's just a case of going over to the last one, which is off to your left. And then same thing here as we did right at the start. A regular jump off of the grate treats itself as like a jump, and then we use the boost. You can just use the regular jump, it works as well. And then this is just usual cutscene. There's nothing to say here. As we get ready to make our way to Escape 6. Now, as I said at the top, this is the one phase that I will not be doing any beginner strats, because in my eyes, there is one correct way of doing this. And that's going to be the method that you see me doing here. It does change a little bit as you get closer to the third checkpoint. Because the third checkpoint, or I should say the last checkpoint, is where you can play things a little bit slower. But the first two checkpoints become so much easier when you learn a very simple pattern. So I will go into depth on it as we go into Escape 6. So, obviously, as I mentioned, as is very common in OE Escape, this is a global cycle phase up to, I think, the end of checkpoint 2 up here. I think checkpoint 3 is local cycles. But the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be holding swim forward and swim through the cutscene, because you want to jump, and as soon as you cross this line here to get onto the platform, you're going to throw a bomb at the orb. And that's just to keep ourselves... That's to give ourselves free movement while we're just charging our ink tank back up. Because you are much more easily able to get instant movement from the platform doing it like this. So once you throw the bomb, you go into your ink, and then you basically want to position yourself right where I am between these two essentially coils. So right in this range here. And you're going to stay in your ink until your ink tank reaches basically right on your sub weapon line or slightly higher. And then you're going to be going into tap shots. You'll see the rhythm at which I'm doing the tap shots in the video. But you basically are trying to do it maybe... I mean, it's just a feel thing. If you know the sound of basically the platform activating, this little like whir up, you're trying to get it to where each shot will fall just before you're trying to get it to where each shot is trying to activate that whirring sound. Maybe a little bit faster, but we'll get back to why you want to maybe do it a little bit slower when we get to the end of this first checkpoint. So now that my ink tank is above the sub-weapon line, I do a visual, or not a visual, I do an audible count to myself for the number of tap shots followed by a bomb. So I'll just do it here as an example. I'll just back up so I can do it how I would do it. So bomb, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, bomb. Once you throw the bomb after the 8th shot, immediately turn your camera 180 and burst this balloon here, which houses an extra ink tank. Do not grab the ink tank under any circumstance. At least on checkpoint 1. We need to save it till checkpoint 2 because of the enemies that we will face in the second checkpoint, and essentially needing to keep the platform moving while we're killing an enemy. If you happen to grab this ink tank early, you're going to be in a much worse spot than if you just save it for later. So you'll see that I purposely, once I pop it, I get out of the way. I go back to the orb. And then I basically fire through until I see ink below my feet and then go into tap shots. Another thing to keep in mind, if you've played Octoexpansion before, you know that as the platform goes along these turns, it will rotate. If you are close enough to the orb, as you can see I am here, I'm basically touching it. As you go through the turn, I don't have to move my camera, and I'm still hitting the orb. So if you're going through these turns, it is very important that you stay close to the orb. Now, once I make the turn all the way up, and once I start moving, you'll notice that I start moving myself back towards the edge of the platform. And the reason we do that is because these two enemies here, one here and one behind him, they're going to be firing towards your player character. So if your player character is stood in front of the orb, they're going to, by extension, shoot the orb if you don't get hit. So we stand at the edge of the platform to make sure that we're not, accidentally causing the orb to get shot and take damage, which could be bad. And then I just fire through to make sure that I'm still getting ink onto the orb, even through that enemy there, and then go back to the rhythm of tap shots. If you've done everything right, these octo missiles will not hit you. You might take a hit from the first one, but you can tank one before really getting low on health. And you see I do the same thing as shooting through the enemies as this one here. Once I'm through, I then start doing tap shots and moving myself forward, so that, once again, now that I'm going up, I can just continue my tap shots without having to worry about aim. Once you're on the second checkpoint, you want to maybe take a little bit more time between your tap shots, because we want to try and get to a full ink tank, or as close to full as we can. At the very least, to the point that you have your sub-weapon back. So I'd maybe delay my shots a little bit longer. Also, as long as you're doing tap shots here, you'll make it through these washers just fine. They're not going to do any damage to you. Also, the reason we do tap shots, I know I didn't cover this, but it's worth mentioning, is because it allows us to keep recovering our ink while keeping the same pace of movement forward rather than just straight shooting. So once I get up to this corner here, once I have hit the 90-degree angle to start moving to the left, I do one shot, throw a bomb, turn around, kill this enemy. It's a super quick movement. I mean, it's over in probably less than a second. One Mississippi, and there. That's the first Octobomber down. You then want to grab the ink tank that we saved from the first checkpoint. I do shots here, and then count 3 or 4 more tap shots. Throw another bomb for when this octocopter here spawns in. and then he's likely going to be throwing a bomb at you at that point, which means he can't dodge out of the way. Kill him, and then I snap around 180 degrees to kill this last Octo Zeppelin. This will take practice, but it is by far the easiest way of getting through the first 2 checkpoints of Escape 6. I know that this is an insanely hard phase for beginners. I know I struggled with it a lot, but this method is foolproof. You know, I learned it from Lantro, who I know I've recommended his video in the past. You will see every single top-level runner playing Escape 6 like this, because it is just consistent. And then I go to the back of the platform here, or behind the orb, for the next round, or for the next checkpoint, because once I get here, it's going to put me in the perfect position to where I am now facing these 4 switches. Oh, let me just... The 4 switches that you can see me coloring. The last one is behind the orb. So, if you are moving at full speed, you can take the damage from one of these lasers and be fine. You won't have any room for other mistakes, but it does mean that you don't have to worry about, you know, one switch. Most top-level runners will elect to not hit this switch on the left, because our first switch is already on the right, which means that we're already aiming to the right, which means we can then hit this one, and then we just hit the last one that's up top. The other thing to keep in mind during this checkpoint is your cycle with the bowling balls. Now, I'm doing the advanced route, which is like 7 or 8 shots, then hitting this switch, and then 5 more shots to get beyond this bowling ball line before the next one rolls. And you'll see that here. 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit the switch. Go back to tap shots. And you'll notice that I'm now shooting this switch, and this bowling ball isn't even close. If you wanted to, and for most beginners, I would recommend this, you can stop before the bowling ball, like right in this area, and still hit the switch off to the right. It does make the next checkpoint a little bit scarier than if you're already here, because like the distance between here and here is like 2 or 3 tap shots, and you'll see why that matters here. And you can see that I'm on the wrong button. There we go. So full speed, you can take enough damage to where you're not going to die, and then you just go through with the bowling balls. You won't see it here, but if you are further back, you run into a chance of the bowling ball from the right hitting you. And then if a bowling ball hits the orb, you're dead. You are just straight up dead. The orb will blow up immediately, and you'll be back to the checkpoint. But from here, it's just tap shots. You can paint yourself a little path with the ink that will fall beneath your feet, but honestly, other than that, there's not much else to the ending here. And then this is just another cutscene that, you know, you're just chilling at this point, knowing that there's only one phase left in Escape. So as we move to that now, just a nice little paint, a little path to paint for yourself. As we go into the Agent 3 fight. Now, this one is super predictable. I mean, obviously it has the same phases. And unlike the Inner Agent 3 fight, it is, you know, not stupidly hard. But there is another trick in this. There is a little skip in this phase. It's called Elevator Skip, because we are very creative in our naming here in the Splatoon speedrunning community. As I'm sure you know from, you know, 208 cycle, because that's the length of the split. But once you're out of this cutscene here, you're going to see what I'm doing, which is climbing up onto the box to my immediate front left, and then painting a path for me to ink. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be jumping off of the platform in order to skip more of this cutscene. So if we skip enough of the cutscene, we're going to be in a position... So if we get... Let me rephrase. When we do this jump off of the platform, we are effectively past the checkpoint, which will then spawn us at the beginning of the Agent 3 cutscene, saving about 8 seconds. So the visual cue for this, technically there's two, but there's one that I highly prefer. We want to compare to this line on the left. Once this line is fully beneath the platform here, you're going to swim full speed, jump at the last moment, and then go over the platform. And you'll see what I do, and you'll see it here. So I'm waiting. The line that I marked is now fully below the platform. I swim forward, jump at the last minute, off I go. And then that's going to drop us directly into the Agent 3 cutscene. You want to be holding either your shoot button, or I personally use my left stick, because once you die, you actually need to make a movement input in order to trigger the cutscene. Yes, I learned that the hard way. So I'm going to go ahead and also break down the Agent 3 fight as it happens. Obviously not in real time, because there's actually things that I want to go into specifically. So there's 4 phases to the Agent 3 fight. You have the first one, which is, I'm going to call it the curling bomb phase. The second, which is baller phase. Third is stingray. Fourth is splashdown spam. So the first one and fourth one play very similarly to one another, since they both start with splashdowns. So as Agent 3 comes in for the splashdown, I paint a path in front of me so I can swim. Obviously some of it's going to get covered. I then hold out a sub-weapon, line it up vaguely with the line that will mark the boundary of Agent 3's super jump. And once they hit, I roll the bomb along the floor so it lands right onto them. And just before it explodes, you want to fire off your gun directly into Agent 3. If you time it right, you're going to one cycle Agent 3 without them rolling away like this. But here, it's a very simple follow-up. Because if you land a direct bomb hit onto Agent 3, it will deal enough points of damage to where you only need to hit them with 4 other shots, which then makes the ensuing dodge rolls far less annoying to deal with, because you might only need to hit them like 2 or 3 more times. The second one is baller phase. I position my camera here to where I can see this landing point here, the one that Agent 3 is actually going to, and this landing point here. There are 4 in total. There's one that's to my left, and one that's to my back left, one that's to my back right. I can generally tell where they're jumping by first looking to see if one of these 2 markers ends up, or if I don't see either of them, which direction their super jump is going in. That will tell me exactly where Agent 3 is going. And we're going to be using that again later on in the 4th phase of the fight. So before they even land, I'm already shooting their landing position to start getting damage onto the baller, because you have enough time that if you're consistently hitting shots, the baller will break before Agent 3 can explode it. And you'll also see me pushing Agent 3 into the corner here, because that means they can't roll quite as far if you don't get enough damage onto them in time. And you can see I do that there. Once I've broken their armor in the second phase, I immediately go for the tall box and then climb up on top of it. And then I line myself up on the top right corner, front right corner, whatever you want to call it, for phase 3. So I prepare myself, hold out my sub-weapon, which is a bomb. Once Agent 3 is about halfway through their flashing, like their armor recovery phase, you want to roll the bomb onto their feet and then just aim right at them and shoot them. If you get a direct bomb hit, again, you're only going to need like 4 shots to land. And it's just going to make the phase a lot more consistent. Do not, under any circumstance, jump off of the box to try and get closer to Agent 3, because your shots become far less consistent. They become far more random while you're in the air. And if you don't get enough hits to kill them, you're going to be stuck in a position where you can no longer see Agent 3, and they're going to have a Stingray, which is bad. So now that we're in phase 4, you'll see that I'm aligned to the exact same position I was in at the start of phase 2 with that super jump. And now that I know where they're going, I'm doing the exact same thing as I was in phase 1, which is prepare to roll the bomb, roll, charge, fire as many shots as I can. Here, I know that, like, okay, I got, like, a direct bomb hit and then, like, 2, maybe 3 shots onto Agent 3. I can tank this super jump because we have armor break. And as long as I'm able to hold my aim steady on Agent 3, they don't have enough time to get another super jump off before I kill them, which you can see there. So that's Escape. I know it's a lot, and this is already a pretty long video, but it's a very, very good thing to keep in mind. You know, if you want to refer back to this as practice as like a middle to high level run, I would do the statue, but statue in itself is already pretty simple in the grand scheme of things. I'll probably link to my PB run down in the description if you want to see my path for doing the statue, the Nils fight, whatever you want to call it, turf war. But as long as it's consistently, as long as you're consistently killing or completing the statue before the 3-minute time is up, you're going to be fine for speedruns. Because, you know, you get to the point where you've played it so many times that, you know, it's no longer an issue. It's no longer a question of if you're going to do it. It's just, yeah, this is now a 9-minute auto-scroller in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, hopefully you learned a thing or two about how a top-level speedrunner plays Escape in Octo Expansion, or if you're just starting off on your Octo Expansion journey. I hope this helps. All right. I'll see you guys around. Peace.